Thanks for tuning into another Dolphins podcast where we have a Christmas miracle on our hands. Jason Sanders went 5 for 5 on field goal attempts, and De'Von Achane became the season's first 100-yard rusher in a 29-17 win over the San Francisco 49ers. Joining me to close the book on Week 16, what's up, Mr. Houtz?
It's Christmas, man, and we got our Christmas miracle. We're still in the hunt, and that's all we can ask for at this time of the year. And it's a little bit bittersweet, but I'm pretty excited in this game. You know, it kind of felt like the beginning of the year when you had hope and excitement and you were going through the ups and downs of a game and actually felt it in your soul. So I was pretty excited about this 29-17 win. And as we'll talk about, there was some good to take from it and a little bit of bad as well.
It was so nice to finally see the Dolphins offense look comfortable. And this is such an interesting performance because they scored 29 points, but I think we're going to get to a lot of things that kind of annoyed us about this game too, even though they scored 29 points. But man, I want to start with De'Von Achane and this rushing attack in general, because you look back to the 2023 Miami Dolphins. It's this dynamic rushing attack, Raheem Mostert's leading the league in rushing touchdowns. And oh, by the way, De'Von Achane alone is this two-headed monster as a receiver and a running back. He almost got to 200 total yards on Sunday, and when you're facing a team like the 49ers, you can't help but think of someone like Christian McCaffrey when you see how McDaniel and De'Von Achane have really started to develop this relationship, the chemistry that he has with this offense. 30 carries for 166 yards, 5.5 per. And Josh, I got to ask you, man, were you mad with that 50-yard scamper in the closing minutes? Were you mad to see him sprint into the end zone? Because I saw some people saying, well, actually, they should have just kneeled it and ran out the clock.
Yeah, I mean, I would not have. I didn't even think about that at all. I mean, I do remember, a time long ago when the Eagles, I think it was Brian Westbrook, he went down at the goal line. Everyone was praising him for that, but I never once even thought of that. Maybe it's because I had him in fantasy, but when you're De'Von Achane ripping through that hole, there's no way you're thinking about going down. So not surprised that people need something to complain about. I mean, like you said, we're going to come here and probably complain about some things, but at no point during that did I say, please, De'Von Achane, go down. What about you? Did you feel that at all during that? Or
I'm facing him in fantasy football. It was the first thing that crossed my mind. But in this scenario, dude, I think that it's so easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. One, because that's the name of it, but just because it's a week-by-week league, it's so easy to kind of pick and choose all these 11 players, all these different plays, and get mad about something. Made it a 2-possession game with less than 2 minutes left in the game. I don't see any issue with it. I get it, but I think you're really trying to just really get really fine here with your complaints. So I'm not a huge fan. Josh, De'Von Achane, 120 rushing yards, 7.1 per against the San Francisco 49ers. Of those 120 rushing yards, how many do you think came after contact?
I may have looked. So you tell me, because I don't want to. I'm not going to guess. I'm just going to say 69. It's a little more than that, though, right?
Only 29 of De'Von Achane's rushing yards came after contact. The way this Miami Dolphins offensive line was creating lanes, opening holes was really impressive, man. It's something we haven't seen for a long time. We've seen this offense time and time again get stuffed just right in the trenches. You'd have that defensive lineman who gets just one hand on Achane. And then all of a sudden you also have Mostert going 8 for 31. Jeff Wilson got involved for 2 for 12. And overall, man, this is an offense that carried the rock 30 times for 166 yards. 5.5 yards per carry. It was that Dolphins offense of old.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of funny the way I guess early on they were kind of going with the rotating of a guard, almost like, some teams use a 2-quarterback system. The Dolphins were rotating out Liam Eichenberg and Isaiah Wynn. But, as people broke down the stats and as we saw in that last run, right, Isaiah Wynn looks like he belongs out there. So it was nice to see him at least change up and use some of those different tools, though, in his running back tool set, right? We literally just talked about it. And you see Jeff Wilson getting touches. You saw Alec Ingold late in the game get a rush up the middle. I was absolutely mind blown. So it seemed like Mike McDaniel finally figured out a way to get his guys involved. And again, hat tip to De'Von Achane. I mean, we're sitting here, we got 2 weeks left of the season. The guy is playing out of his mind. Christian McCaffrey, I think we joked he was pocket Christian McCaffrey, but the numbers say that that's pretty close to what he is. I think first player since McCaffrey in week 17 of 2022 to put up over 120 yards on the ground and 70 in the air. So this guy, wide receiver 1, we joked, you said wide receiver 2 at the beginning of the year. He's been everything and more that this team could have asked for.
From Kyle Krabs, Miami averaged 4.8 yards per carry and 2.2 yards before contact with Liam Eichenberg, 15 snaps. 6.3 yards per carry and 4.8 yards per contact with Isaiah Wynn, also 15 snaps. So you jump from 4.8 yards per carry to 6.3, and you jump from 2.2 yards before contact to 4.8. Josh, I think everybody who listens to this podcast understands we're not the biggest math guys. And it's really important when you look at those numbers to consider that De'Von Achane's 50-yard run came with Isaiah Wynn on the field. People were kind of using that to discredit the stats. Like, oh, well, it was just one big run. That's been the Miami Dolphins offense since day one. That's been the biggest issue with this Miami Dolphins this year. They haven't had that one big run to make it look like you're leading the league with 5.1 yards per carry. Miami didn't lead the league last year because they were literally getting 5 yards per carry. Like Achane was still getting stuffed in the backfield, but it was every fourth play was a 20-yard run. I find myself, dude, and it's just so much more amplified with all the opinions on X, on Blue Sky. Isaiah Wynn made a difference being in the lineup. I don't think we can debate that. Even if it's one big play, the Miami Dolphins didn't have one big play before. Why did it take this long? Is it a scenario where we can all sit here and say, like, it was just Mike McDaniel just being unaware? Why did it take Isaiah Wynn so long? Or are we being too lazy by thinking it's just that simple?
Probably not, but I think a lot of this, and I mean, it's kind of the fault of Mike McDaniel, right? It almost seems like he puts a lot of his, like his relationship with the players, right? And this guy earned this job, so he's kind of almost, to a fault, relies on them and depends on them and gives them that opportunity. I think he was waiting for Liam Eichenberg to slip up. He saw it at that point, a couple weeks ago. So I think it was a little bit of both, but I think he was too loyal to Liam Eichenberg and maybe want to give Isaiah Wynn some time to get things under his belt. But those numbers, they do not lie. But I think this run game as a whole was really just, absolutely clicking in this one. And testament to Mike McDaniel too for staying with the run and, utilizing again his toolbox. We finally saw Raheem Mostert in week 16.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, Josh. You mentioned like the relationships. I mean, like Jeff Wilson came to Miami because of his previous like it just seems like we're trying to figure out Mike McDaniel, and we're in a situation where it's should I stay or should I go? Like we're talking about should Chris Greer go, should McDaniel go? Like in his third year, like I feel it's so tough to kind of sit here and see it unravel where you have this offensive lineman that you re-signed and he got hurt in training camp and it took so long for him to get involved. But when you only made 2 additions to this offensive line and you cut one of them in the preseason, I think that needs to be a bit of a longer conversation of, hey, what's going on here? Why aren't we being a little more urgent? Like, I don't know if we can buy like, hey, I like my friends 3 years into a relationship, because I think what's really clear is when you see the Dolphins at 7-8, they've allowed the 10th fewest points in the NFL. I mean, one game, Houston, Colts early in the season, one game in this Dolphins season is looking entirely different. And that lack of urgency, is that something, or that, value in the power of friendship, is that something that really needs to be considered looking ahead to next year when you do understand that, like, one of these changes sitting on your hands for a minute or two, a game or two too long, it is probably the worst thing you can do. And being in the league for so long, these are things you need to start to realize, I feel.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Maybe I shouldn't have said the relationship. I was looking for the word loyal, right? Same thing with Danny Crossman. He seems like he's loyal to these guys and doesn't want to, make that ultimate decision that he has to make. So I think you're right, Jay. I think maybe they did wait on this a little too long. I mean, we all thought when Isaiah Wynn was activated, you started to hear he's practicing.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get him out there, right? I mean, even if you just took Robert Jones out and moved Liam, like I don't know how they had to do it. Even last week, I think was the most frustrating when they decided to put Jackson Carman out there at right tackle and not try to do something else there. So I keep looking at that and wondering what waited, but it seems like now they realize, we're dangling from a ledge, what 4 or 5% hope of making the playoffs. You have to make these decisions now. So, this is definitely something that they have to look at, and an issue with Mike McDaniel as a whole, whether it's the coaching staff or these players, who have started for him so many games over his tenure.
And it's so weird because I think we do see it on the sidelines. Like we see him like screaming the figure it out. Like we see him being annoyed, and it's not like he's just glossing over these issues or sweeping them under the rug. So, I mean, it's just so funny to see. Well, not funny because it's annoying as all hell, but seeing him on the sideline, like screaming at Crossman, just kind of what on earth is going on here? And that I think is my biggest issue with McDaniel. I think he's a great offensive mind. I think there are going to be times where your offense looks ugly and you got to work through growing pains. And I think McDaniel's done a good job of adjusting and trying to figure things out. But it just seems like, do you have faith that if this is do you think that Mike McDaniel has learned from the season? I think you're using the word loyal is perfect for this. Do you think Mike McDaniel learned that loyalty isn't how you win games in the NFL?
I don't know. I'm not sure. And that's, I guess, what we really have to wonder, right? I mean, that's his biggest fault, I think, is just being that guy that just doesn't seem to want to ruffle feathers or, I guess, do the thing that you need to do to get this thing on the right track. So I don't think he has. Do you?
I don't either. And that means we should have a serious conversation about having him stick around. Like you only have 17 chances, and you can't just let one
Um,
slide by and think, "Ooh, we lost to the Colts." So well, like
and we say that as you see Stephen Ross like just gushing on the sideline, giving out game balls. Like I don't know where we're going from here, man. But yeah, it's definitely a concern and something that is attributed to what we've seen on the field this season.
I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but I noticed the picture. Stephen Ross is a billionaire fan. He is nothing more than that. He loves to waddle. He loves to celebrate. He likes to see a lot of points scored. He is a dumb brain football fan like all the rest of us. He's not worried about the let's build from the inside out. Let's win these games 17-13. He wants lots of points. He wants explosions. He's like the rest of us. You know who wasn't shown in any of those pictures? You know who wasn't? I didn't see in the locker room when Stephen Ross was handing out game balls. You know who wasn't in any of this? Chris Greer. I didn't see him once. Did you see him?
No, now the speculation begins, right? I mean, no, I did not see Chris Greer. It's been a couple weeks since we've seen Chris Greer, but he probably doesn't want to be seen since he's been hiding behind that pillar. He's not been seen since then, right? Since they showed him in the press box, like Homer Simpson, and I'm getting out of here.
How the turntables. And when we look at this Miami Dolphins roster and the way it's constructed, I think we had a pretty good idea how the offseason was going to go. Waddle gets paid, Tua gets paid, and, the vibes are feeling pretty good. And all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill gets named the number one wide receiver. He gets this contract restructured where there were no years added, but it basically locks him in to get paid quite a bit of money for 2026. And Josh, how do you feel about paying someone who is named the number one wide receiver in the NFL, $30 million to go out on an NFL football field and just do his best impersonation of a basketball hoop as he holds his hands out and the ball just continuously goes through his arms and onto the ground?
I don't know, man. I was honestly considering coming on here with an egg and just smashing it over my face because I think you asked me like who needed to step up in this game, and I said Tyreek Hill. He was getting paid all that money. He needed to step up, and I think the numbers suggest maybe three. Was it three drop touchdowns? I mean,
Two
at the
drop
beginning of the year,
touchdowns and a third
yeah,
drop, I think.
whatever you want to say. I mean, I know people are nitpicking. I saw fingertips get involved there, but some of those throws were absolute money. I mean, Tua would say it looked like money to me, and you have Tyreek Hill again, that number one guy, the guy getting paid all that money. They probably have some void years where he's getting paid down the road. He's opening up shops. He's that superstar player. He needs to make those catches. And it's just been a problem all season long. I mean, it's literally been since he said, I don't want 2,000 yards, where it just seems like he turned into a pumpkin. And I continue to go back to Tua Tagovailoa being lost for those 5 games. Do you think at that point, Tyreek Hill, all that off season, you're working hard to get out there, you have these high hopes, and you just see your season slowly slip away, and it just seems like he checked out. So I'm not happy with it at all. You need him to make those catches. Well, guess you didn't need him to. The Dolphins overcame it with Jason Sanders and all those Tony Soprano fist bump field goals. But yeah, man, Tyreek Hill is part of the problem, and I don't know where the Dolphins go from here.
3 of 7 for 29 yards and a touchdown.
Fuck.
It's so hard to look at that, man. When you look at what Jalen Waddle did last year when Tyreek Hill was out of the lineup against a very good Jets defense, Jalen Waddle, 8 of 9, 142 yards and a touchdown. And above that, man, not only is Tyreek struggling and, this ball was tipped, whatever. There were 3 opportunities he had to show that he's the best player in the NFL. You know who shows he's the best player in the NFL every week? Jamar Chase. You know who shows he's the best player in the NFL every week? Justin Jefferson with Sam Darnold. I am so tired of just the excuses. I'm so tired of Tyreek Hill talking. I know that's what he does. I know he's a troll, but 3 for 7 for 29 yards. Malik Washington, a rookie 6th round pick, 3 for 4, 29 yards. A 6th round rookie had comparable stats to the number 1 player in the NFL. And we're going to get a tweet on Thursday, tee-hee-hee, why don't you guys go trade me? Or some stupid crap that we just don't deserve to deal with after defending this guy. He was awesome. I see him. I think the wrist is an issue, and I think there's a whole nother can of worms of why is he this big a part of the offense if the wrist is an issue. If Tua got shut down and you see Tyreek kind of just being, pouty, whatever, why didn't they shut him down then too? That people are going to get mad that I just said that, but it's just so damn frustrating that he's like, yeah, these rest days on Wednesdays are really doing this. Dude, his one job is to catch footballs, and it's going through his arms like he's a basketball hoop. These aren't like him diving, going, full spread, flailing to the ground. I don't know. I'm spinning out of control here. But like there were the clips going around about the drops against Philly, him not giving a shit and fumbling the ball against the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany. I mean, it's just, he's been awesome. He's been so much fun. But there are so many times where it feels like he's just spitting in everyone's faces. And it's, I don't care. I'm Tyreek. And we got to deal with it for 3 more years. And he did nothing to show he deserved that.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I feel like just last year I know I was coming on here talking about how Tyreek was the complete opposite of what the stigma was, and he's been and then this year it just seems like maybe there was just a pot boiling over. It finally reached its breaking point. You're kind of seeing, I don't want to say the diva, but you're seeing the Tyreek Hill, that's on there tweeting vague comments and going out there and dropping passes in key moments. I'm looking at his stats here. He had more touchdowns as a rookie right now. He has 6 this year. He had 7 as a rookie in 12 games. He had 860 yards as a rookie. He only has 834 this year. I mean, this guy's 834 yards. We have 2 games left, 70 catches on 111 targets. It's been honestly one of his worst seasons in his career. And I mean, when you thought again at the beginning of the year that this was the year, everything was lining for this Dolphins team to finally break through, we were all saying, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, was saying Josh Allen in the Bills window was closed. It was 365 days ago we were saying it was closed and how it was the Dolphins' time to shine. And dude, Tyreek Hill's dropping passes that are in the bucket that you and I, as long as we can see that thing coming, I mean, dude, that was a catch that even us eating potato chips probably would have made. So, yeah, fans might be upset about that. But again, you just paid him. He knows he's that superstar, but just feels like you've been proven that you're not a Mahomes guy. You can do the same, or if not more without Mahomes. You've been voted number 1 by your peers. I mean, was that all he wanted to prove that, he's him? I don't know, man.
And it's just, it's the excuses, like going back to the little, oh, I couldn't see the football. Oh, this happened. Oh, my jersey. Like every play, man, there are people pulling on your jerseys. Balls are tipped all the time, and they aren't easy catches. I understand that. You were just named the best player of a professional sport, and you got your contract extension. De'Von Achane, 6 for 7, 70 yards. Smith, 6 for 6, 62 yards. Tua was absolutely awesome. I think you mentioned Tyreek Hill's touchdown numbers. I think we could go and find him 4 more touchdowns that he's just flat out dropped this year. Tua in the red zone, man. Do you happen to have those stats in front of you? I think it's like 20 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's just been absolutely carving people up. And I think that's the strength of this team with this Mike McDaniel offense, especially you have Jonnu Smith in the mix, this big body tight end who can make that one tackler either miss or you break through it and be able to push it in. So it's kind of funny, man, how we sit here and we talk about how great Tua was in the red zone and how he continues to be awesome. And he was very clean pocket Sunday, great performance. And you still lean on 5 field goals for Jason Sanders. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you like that's what's keeping the Dolphins from being one of those elite teams, right? You can see that we dropped 70 on the Broncos back in the day, but when you're relying on 5 field goals, I mean, it is frustrating. But dude, we were all kind of, I mean, I don't like to be that person that, okay, pats ourselves on the back, but you, Kat, myself, we all sat here and said this would probably be Tua's bounce back game. And I mean, like you said, if you sat here and wanted to honestly add those touchdowns that Tyreek dropped, I mean, this was probably one of Tua's best games. And that's what's so frustrating, especially on that one. I said that the defender got his fingertips on that one, but Tua, man, with pressure in his face, put one of the best throws I've ever seen from that man right on the money. And I don't care, a tiny little trajectory change. You should have made that catch. So it's funny, who's stepping up. Again, Achane's leading the way, 70 yards on 6 receptions. But Jonnu Smith, man, I think we're starting to see us go back to like a traditional offense. I feel like we just need that one big bodied receiver. We got our tight end a little bit. We see Malik Washington being that slot guy. It just feels like this Dolphins offense is so close to just being everything we believe they could be, but we might have to wait till next year for that. But Malik Washington, man, again, another solid game out of him, but you don't want your 6th round rookie putting up the same numbers as Tyreek Hill, like you said.
It's been so great to see Jonnu Smith's development. And even in the last 4 years, I think it was 2021 when it was Gesicki, Durham Smith, Adam Shaheen, I think was the 3rd one. Miami set all these tight end records for like receptions, catches, touchdowns. And Jonnu Smith, dude, he's just like breaking all those alone. I had it written down somewhere. I think I might have lost it. I apologize. His 780 something receiving yards is the most among tight ends. I'm sorry. I had this somewhere. But I lost it.
I just pulled it up. 76 receptions this year, 802 yards receiving, and the 6 touchdowns. All of those. The 6 is tied with Clay and Gesicki, But yeah, man, this guy, and someone said, is that just proof that the Dolphins really didn't have that elite tight end? I mean, I don't go back and look at some of the other franchises and their tight end leaders, but that 791 heading into this year did seem a little bit low. But hell yeah, man, Jonnu Smith really stepping it up, and he is signed through next season. I mean, I know we're going to eventually probably talk an extension here, but a lot of people keep saying, they got to lock him up. They got to lock him up. Chris Greer, they did sign him to a 2-year deal. For whatever reason, he made the right move there. So maybe we can tip our Chris Greer hat to him on that one.
I don't want to make anyone mad. Would you call Jonnu Smith elite?
Pretty close. He's got to be. I mean, he feels elite for this offense. I mean, he feels like an absolute cheat code. And again, if you get a tight end that can block, I mean, that's kind of what they want there with Smythe. But it seems like Jonnu just can't block as well as, some of these elite guys. But dude, what he can do in the passing game, we haven't even really seen him in the running game, which we saw time and time again in Tennessee and New England. So yeah, he's our unicorn. No one else can have him.
I was going to get like real maybe like political there and he maybe not elite, but like the perfect fit for this offense. And I think McDaniel,
he's in that same tier with Tua. Tua's not elite, but he's in that like next tier, the very good tier. That's where him and Jonnu and I don't know.
And they're in a system that just maximizes them to the 10th degree. So that's been so much fun to watch. And yeah, I think he needs maybe 3 or 4 more touchdowns to wipe out that entire 2021 room for their total touchdowns. That'll be interesting to see. Biggest difference between Mike Gesicki and Jonnu Smith, Josh?
His ability to break tackles, right in the yak, I guess. I mean, I joke, but I think I almost call him Mike McDaniel. He ran like Mike McDaniel, the way he would never break a tackle, like a baby deer. So yeah, Jonnu Smith, the yak and the ability to break plays and the speed, I get. Well, Gesicki's pretty fast. He
was like the definition though of a wide receiver playing tight end. Like he was like people say it and like people will say it against Jonnu because of his speed, but Mike Gesicki was like the definition of that for Miami. Let's flip the coin here. Let's talk about the defense. And Josh, I gotta say, man, if you have a wide receiver that's struggling, you have a wide receiver that's in a rut, if you have a wide receiver that your fan base is calling soft, just go play the Miami Dolphins. De'Von Samuel had less than 25 receiving yards in each of the last 5 games before facing Miami. 7 of 9, 96 yards and a touchdown, 5 for 25 on the ground. And man, it seemed like every single time the ball was in his hand, he was breaking tackles. I think the Dolphins as a team, 13 missed tackles, and De'Von Samuel was looking like that dude from 2018.
Yeah, it was so frustrating. I mean, and again, ever since I tweeted, and I was a little bit, it was late in the night. It was like 2 a.m. Ever since I tweeted, Javon Holland needs to get paid because I looked at that safety room. It's been disarray, man. He cannot make a tackle. He is missing. He's making so many mistakes, and that's just not the Javon Holland that we all loved. The guy that we thought was going to get paid, the guy that PFF and all these other sites are calling, a top 5 or top 3 free agent. But yeah, man, just seeing De'Von Samuel absolutely bully him, Poyer just get in the end zone time and time again. I had a George Kittle stat down. I think he had the 5th most yak after contact this season as well. I mean, the Dolphins just can't tackle outside of Jordan Brooks, I guess, right? Jordan Brooks, Jalen Ramsey, some of those guys up front, they can tackle. But the secondary, man, again, outside of Cater Cohu and Jalen Ramsey, has just been questions upon questions. But De'Von Samuel, man, he had 1 catch last week. This was definitely his get right game real quick.
His 2nd touchdown of the season, his most receiving yards since October 10th. And I think it's like the 3rd straight week it felt like Javon Holland has dropped an interception, man. And it's been so depressing just to see him unravel, that secondary unravel as a whole. But we did get a Cater Cohu interception. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that play is like a testament to just teamwork, right? You can see Zach Sealer, taking out 2 or 3 guys. You see Calais Campbell loop around with a perfect stunt and then right into Cater Cohu's arms. So it's just, I don't know how good it is that your best pass rushers, I guess Chad Robbins is stepping up, but Zach Sealer, Calais Campbell were the guys getting most of the pressure. And you got to tip your hat to Cater Cohu, though. We were all kind of down on him last year. We all love Cater Cohu, but, that sophomore slump definitely hit him. He's definitely stepped up this year and become, again, one of those bright spots in the secondary. So it was nice to see Darth Cater, put a exclamation point on this one.
So the Dolphins lost Christian Wilkins. Calais Campbell's 38 years old, and there's conversations that if Miami loses one of the next 2 and they're officially eliminated, he'll get cut. When you look ahead to this offseason, Josh, what's a bigger weakness, the secondary or the defensive line? And I do want you to consider that we do have Benito Jones, who should have had an interception on Sunday.
Yeah, that was so sick watching him run around, but it wasn't sick to see him get blasted. Yeah, oh man. So yeah, that's tough because I keep looking at the secondary and I just don't know who's going to step up at safety, right? You're letting Javon Holland walk most likely. Patrick Morris we're still waiting on, so they absolutely need like 2, if not 3 safeties, but you also need two defensive tackles up there at least, right, for depth purposes. So I guess I'm going to say safety, but they're both huge, huge holes. And I kind of hope that the Dolphins, I was hoping they would lose a little bit more games so they could get a higher pick because Mason Graham's a really good defensive tackle, but didn't work out that way. So I'll go safety, but defensive tackle's right behind it. What about you, Jake?
I kind of want to. Can the conversation be had about the secondary? Because they do have Fuller. Fuller is 30. He actually suffered, I believe, a knee injury on Sunday. Somebody asked if he'd need surgery or if it was season ending, and McDaniel said, no, it's not that bad whatsoever. But when you look at that, he suffered a couple injuries this year. Ramsey's getting a little older. I mean, I think cornerback's a position you got to have a discussion about too. I mean, Cam Smith, dude, he suffered the shoulder injury. I don't think he'll be coming back this season, but when he was out there, you were hoping to see, like, get out of the grasp of Vic Fangio and show us what you got, and it wasn't great.
No, man, you make a great point. Secondary as a whole is probably the biggest concern, especially when you factor in some of these things. But the way they're using Jalen Ramsey this year, coming down the box, blitzing to create pressure, I'm wondering if it's, I think we talked about it before, and that people have alluded to it. Could he move to safety? And then that opens up a whole corner. But, I mean, Jalen Ramsey roaming around as your safety that'd be nice.
When you look at the secondary and all, like, it kind of feels like a bridge in like a cartoon where there's just like some tracks that are like falling out into like water that's 100 feet down. It kind of makes you think that Miami's best bet. I mean, Chop Robinson, man, he's been absolutely awesome. Another sack. It was so cool to see the entire universe. It felt like do the Chop Robinson celebration when he got a sack. But when you look at like those weaknesses on the back end, and you have Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and Chop Robinson on your roster, like, you can't let any of them go, right? That's how you make the secondary better with the money third down package of those three, right? That's how you kind of figure things out.
Yeah, and I mean, the way they keep talking about it, I mean, it kind of seemed like before the year, we all speculated maybe Bradley Chubb would go. But I mean, the way you hear Weaver talking about it, and that could be, psycho killer thing up front that they use. So, yeah, man, if we can bring them back, that'll definitely make things much easier in the secondary. I'm glad you brought up Chop Robinson. You did say everyone in the universe. Dude, I hate X so much, man. You go in there, I put everyone on the sidelines doing the thing, and well, there was only 7 people doing it. That's not the whole. No, come on, man. Nobody cares. But Chop Robinson, he's been playing absolutely insane. What's he have 6 sacks this year? And I did have to ask you. A lot of the talk is Jalen Phillips versus Chop Robinson. Where do you stand on that as far as their rookie year? Because I feel like Jalen Phillips was kind of brought along kind of slowly. Neither can really set the edge that well in the run game. But I just feel like Chop Robinson, that first step, and just knowing that he has all this raw abilities yet. I mean, I feel like he might break that rookie sack record. And at that point, everyone's going to just look at that and say, he's better than Jalen Phillips as a rookie. What are your thoughts? Because Jalen Phillips is an absolute beast.
Chop's at 6 and Phillips had 8.5, I think it was. So he needs 2.5 to match 3 to tie. And when you have Jameis Winston and Aaron Rodgers coming up, I do think you have some opportunities to get sacks here. Phillips, I think as a rookie, he didn't jump off the film. I think he might have been, again, he was a rookie. I think he struggled, but maybe like on a down-to-down basis was a little more sound, where Chop Robinson has a much higher ceiling, but the floor might be a little lower. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say Phillips was well-rounded as a rookie, because I think when you go back and look at his like game logs, it was real up and down, and you could tell like the stretches where he got comfortable and would find his momentum. I don't know, man, because Chop's been coming on, and I wouldn't I wouldn't put it against him, but you do wonder if that rookie wall, or just like the up and downs of a rookie season, if he can push through that and finish with momentum going into next year, my oh my, man, 3 sacks over the final 2 weeks would definitely be something to celebrate.
Yeah, and I hate trying to pit these two guys against each other because they're honestly probably two of our favorite players. But I think what really stands out with Chop Robinson, you see it on tape. I mean, there's times when it looks like he's offsides because of that first step, and it's just impressive as hell. And that's just stuff you can't teach, right? You can teach you different hand moves and things like that, pass rush moves, but you can't teach a guy to shoot off the line like freaking Usain Bolt. So I hope we don't see that slump come along. It's just like you said, so awesome to see him grow from a guy that X is saying is a bust, and we should have drafted X, Y, and Z, to a player that X is now, Hall of Fame gold jacketing. So part of being a fan, I guess.
Dolphins have until Wednesday to activate Bradley Chubb. Josh, you think they get it done?
I don't know why you would even bother at this point. I know they're 5% chance, and we talked about it earlier, right? Emptying the chamber with Isaiah Wynn, not starting him. I mean, so maybe they bring him back, but I just feel like if you're Bradley Chubb, we thought maybe there was some uncertainty with the Dolphins' future. you're finally back to being healthy. Why not just take the entire offseason? But you mentioned in the last pod, man, if you get a sack or a couple tackles under your belt or, 15 reps here and there, I mean, that might go a long way for Bradley Chubb and his confidence. So I guess I'd leave it up to Bradley Chubb, but I would hate for him to go out there and have this whole damn thing. Yeah, that would be
The
brutal.
Jalen Phillips scenario, basically. That
Oh, God.
I hate Jordan Poyer. I hate him so much. Bradley Chubb, I want to leave it up to the Dolphins. If the Dolphins if the Dolphins are confident he's going to be on the roster next year, if they want him back, you don't play him. If you have any doubt about having Bradley Chubb play on your team next year, I think you have him if he wants to. I think I agree with you first and foremost. If he's not comfortable, but like if he's ready to go out there, if he wants, like I mean, he was out there in that Baltimore game, man, when they were losing 56-20. That was his choice. Like everyone, these players want to play. So if he's in that position where he wants to play, I leave it up to where Miami's focus is. If they're on the ledge about bringing him back, if they kind of are planning for the offseason to move on from him, see what he's got. If he goes out there and gets a sack or two, I think you can hang up and make it a harder conversation. But if he's going to stick around, yeah, keep him sidelined, bubble wrap him, and we'll look forward to next year.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I had a stat here. Brock Purdy completed 4 of 11 passes under pressure and was sacked 3 times when the Dolphins blitzed him. So I had to throw that stat out there. And I have to ask you, Jake, do you think that, the part of the Dolphins playoff livelihood rests on the shoulders of what, Mac Jones and Drew Lock? I mean, what are we doing here, man? We're all sitting here splitting hairs trying to figure out this X, Y, and Z scenario. And I go there and I look and it's like, oh, well, it actually comes down to the Colts versus the Giants and Jags. And I'm like, oh my God, Tim Boyle could have been there to save the day, save our Christmas.
It's not promising. We saw what happened Sunday between the Colts and the Titans, where the Titans, I think, actually scored first on a Calvin Ridley bomb, and then the Colts just kind of ran away. Jonathan Taylor, I should say, absolutely ran away from this game. But the Colts are just like the Dolphins, man. The Titans scored 30 and 23 something unanswered points in that game. They have the same record as Miami because they are similar to Miami. And I think that's what's so frustrating as a Dolphins fan is you see these teams that are in the hunt too. Maybe not the Bengals because they've been there, but like the Broncos and the Colts. I mean, Mickey Mouse teams. Like you look at the Dolphins and this is like it's a mid off, don't get me wrong. Like, but as our version of mid, we see their version of mid as less likely. 5% chance. I just wonder if the Jags it's a divisional game. Like Mac Jones being their Tyrod Taylor, like, does that make sense? Like, is that it's not crazy to say that they could be Mac Jones be the Titans or the Colts boogeyman like we had to deal with Geno Smith and Tyrod Taylor. I see that maybe being similar.
Yeah, and we should already know by now as Dolphin fans, right? Any given Sunday. I mean, didn't we lose like Mason Rudolph? We let Anthony Richardson do this, and that's kind of why we're in this situation anyway, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah, mid off sounds like the perfect way to put it. And these teams they would love to spoil division rivals' playoff hopes, but I go back to Mac Jones and him wearing that, like, wasn't there like a crazy photo shoot before the season where he was like wearing like a white suit and he just looked like $1 million bucks? We would need that Mac Jones. We need to see that out there and to somehow, some way beat the Colts. But I don't even know if I want the Dolphins in the playoffs though, right? I mean, it's so torn.
Sad loss in Pittsburgh or Buffalo.
Yeah,
like
Buffalo even worse. Yeah. But then there's always that team, okay, well, in history, that 7 seed, well, has a 7 seed probably ever done it? Probably not. But you know what I mean? That late seed somehow goes on the road and Cinderella story. And
the pass
then you go,
rush.
why not the Dolphins? I don't care how we win it, but I just feel like no reason to just backdoor into this thing with a 5% chance.
That's kind of the thing, but like for if it's fair or not, I mean, you go to those Giants teams, right? Those two teams that won the Super Bowl, and the reason they got hot is what the Dolphins don't have, and that's a pass rush, right? They had 3 sacks on Sunday. Zach Sealer won. He leads the team. Chop Robinson and then Jordan Brooks. Do got to give Jordan Brooks some flowers, man. He has been an absolute home run signing for the Dolphins. I never knew it at all. I haven't seen an off-ball linebacker in Miami that's actually been good since Kevin Burnett and Carlos Dansby. So it's been cool to see him really be that guy. But Anthony Walker, he led the team with 3 missed tackles. Javon Holland was second with 2. So I even think linebacker might be something the Dolphins have to work on. And I feel like I'm slighting you every time I say this, Josh, but it is kind of frustrating when you see someone like Brooks go down and we hope he's okay. And you look back to 11:45, the graphic. inactives, Channing Tindall. Like, come on, really? It's week 16. They have a 5% chance. We can't see if he can do something, have some sort of Matt Moore effect where he sucks in practice and he can do enough to win some football games. I don't know, man.
No, man, I'm glad you're fighting for that. I feel like at this point, it's just yeah, we're never going to see Channing Tindall. You did say something about Tinsel the other day, and I wanted to respond with Channing Tinsel, but I thought I shouldn't do that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, Duke Riley got cooked, didn't he? Didn't Duke Riley get cooked on a play or something? Or I made some kind of comment about him in coverage. Yeah, so I don't know, man. I think that's a testament just how bad Channing Tindall is, which is a testament just how bad these eyes might be at this. I'm just but yeah, man.
Greer drafted him. Greer drafted him.
Now he's hiding.
But that is it. That is all we have on today's episode of Another Dolphins podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. I know most of you are in the South, but please stay warm this holiday season. Thank you all so much for joining us throughout the year. Hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, a great holiday season. Hopefully, we will get to see a couple more wins, but we will be back later this week, Josh, Friday with Kat to preview Week 17 between the Miami Dolphins and the Cleveland Browns. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, have a wonderful Merry Christmas, and most importantly, fins up.
Merry Christmas, fins up.
Fins up.